Welcome to the Boss Podcast, Business Origin Success Stories. I'm your host, Larry Kreusel. I'm the president of Gleam Team Window Cleaning here in San Antonio. And we are joined by Martin Bomba, my friend from Window World. So Martin, thanks for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thanks, Larry. I appreciate you having me in. Never done a podcast before, so this is exciting for me.
Yeah.
As I was telling you earlier, I've been doing radio for my entire life, feels like from the time I was 15, I think. But I've never done a podcast, so this is something new. I'm excited about
Yeah,
this.
it's new for me too, so I'm excited to jump into it. So we brought out the big gun from the jump. So we got Martin here. He's an awesome business owner here in San Antonio, Window World, and I'm actually have been a client of Window World as well. And so I've just been impressed, man, with just seeing your growth. I think I first came into contact with you when I was actually working for another company before I started my own company. And I think you were getting ready to sell your house or something. We were just doing a lot of just everything out there, just pressure washing everything. I think it was actually your daughter. You have a daughter, I believe, that was about to get married at that point.
That's right, yeah.
That's how far back
Oh yeah, this was over in Braun.
So
yeah, that was a while back.
Yeah. So kind of the point behind this is to really just highlight local entrepreneurs, people who have been in the business and built really awesome companies, but are not necessarily like the gurus that you would, go to for business advice. But I feel like there's a lot of wisdom that we can just glean and also kind of tighten up our business community and get to know each other a little better and get to know some stories. So, Martin, I wanted to ask you kind of your origin story. How did you get into business, and is Window World, was that your first venture, or were you in business before that? Like how did you get started in the window and really in business?
Well, yeah, absolutely, great question. And first of all, I forgot to mention, this is the nicest silver pineapple I've ever seen in my entire life. And if you do a podcast, I did hear that you have to have a focal point.
That's my wife's pineapple. I actually just stole it for a centerpiece for this table.
It's perfect.
So.
It's perfect. I mean, it's every podcast should have a focal point, and the silver pineapple that's it. It's you'll be identified by this. No, it's not the first thing that I've ever done.
Okay.
And like many entrepreneurs and business people, you fail a lot before you succeed. In fact, some of the best advice I ever had, and I'll go back a few years. I had started at an early age falling in love with music, and music is still a great love in my life, and I tremendously enjoy live concerts in particular. I've played in bands from the time I was about 15 years old up until probably 7-8 years ago.
I was going to say up till COVID.
Up until COVID hit, yeah. I haven't played full time in a band in a while, but I still have friends that have bands, and I'll go out and I'll sit in and I'll sing or I'll play drums or whatever, and still just get my feet wet and have a little fun. Yeah. But I did that for a lot of years all the time, and was able to live out some of my dreams in doing that. I also found that I loved DJing. I loved playing music, and not just playing music and singing. I love to sing, but I love DJing. I love playing other people's music and finding the origins behind the songs that I was playing, and really got deep into that for many years. I started, and it's opposite for a lot of guys. For me, whenever I got out of radio, or I decided, I had a young family, and I had decided that I got to do something that pays the bills a little more than this. As much as I loved radio, it was very unstable. And now with podcasts and with satellite radio and terrestrial radio is really and truly becoming a thing of the past. And monetizing it is exceptionally difficult. Mm. So back then, the writing was already on the wall. There was my very best year in radio was not even close to my very worst year in this business. And that's not a joke, it's the truth. It's funny, but at the time it wasn't very funny.
Not very funny at the time.
No. So I got out of the radio business after having moved, I think, 6 times in 3 years. Decided I had to do something else. So I got into club DJing, and I worked at different clubs around town, Midnight Rodeo when it was still open in its heyday, Rock Island, Rockies. At one time I was working at 2 or 3 at the same time. I'd get off happy hour at 1 and go and work the night shift at another one. It was a lot of fun, but again, not real conducive to a family life, right?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
You're getting home at 3, 4 in the morning. You know, you sleep half the day because you know you're going to be working all night again. And I knew it wasn't the life that I wanted. So I decided that I was going to pursue something that I'd always dreamed about doing. I had always wanted to have a venue where I could have live music and serve food. And so I didn't really want to open a bar, but I opened up a pizza joint.
Okay.
With a stage and all my radio memorabilia, decorated the walls, and I loved it. We served great food. In fact, I met my wife Debbie while I was putting the finishing touches on opening it up, and I proposed to her at our soft opening, and
wow, that's great.
It was fun. Unfortunately, in a town that size, I was overdoing it, and I was too young to realize how much I was overdoing it until I put myself out of business. Whenever you could go down to any local taco stand and get 3 bean and cheese tacos for a couple of bucks, and I was doing a lunch buffet for $6.99.
Yeah.
Doesn't take a genius to realize where the kids are going to migrate to eventually.
Yeah.
And so after about a year of that, we made the decision we were going to have to close our doors. Well, I had taken out a loan with our local bank to start this, and I had to go, and at that time, I had always had a personal face-to-face relationship with my banker. And the president of the bank's name was Doug Semlinger. And Doug was just a super human being. To this day, one of my favorite people I've ever known in my life. Doug was always great with advice. He was gentle. He was a gentle man in every way. And I came in with my hat in my hand, almost in tears, and I said, Doug, we have to close the restaurant. And I said, and I know I owe you money. And he goes, I know. He said, and I know you're going to pay me. I'm not worried about it.
Wow.
And he said, Martin, let me tell you something. He said, there's not a successful businessman on this planet that hasn't failed at least twice before he made it.
Yeah, I think that's such a key point, because I think a lot of people might look at you now and see all your success and just kind of brand you as like an overnight success. I have a friend who he says everybody sees the wine, but not everybody sees the crushing of the grapes. And so I think that even encourages a lot of people who may have had a failure or maybe had something that didn't work out, to where that doesn't have to be the end of the story. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You can pick yourself up, you can I guess reinvent yourself in a way, and you can continue to press forward. And I think that's something that entrepreneurs, especially, perseverance is so important, because you're gonna run into setbacks, you're gonna run into obstacles, and it's how do you figure a way, or how do you overcome those obstacles? That was actually one of the things I wanted to ask you, was what have been some of the biggest obstacles that you've had to overcome? Maybe we can get to that a little later. I'll let you kind of finish telling about how you got started with Window World. But
well, that is an outstanding question, because there are obstacles. I mean, if you can count on anything, being a business owner and running your own businesses, there are going to be challenges. And it's how you respond to those challenges that really and truly defines you. It's not the challenges or even the effects that the challenges have on you, but how you respond to those effects. Kind of like a customer, okay? If you're in business for any length of time, you're going to have a customer something's going to go wrong. There's going to be a challenge, either something you did that could have been done better, or something you didn't do, or something that was completely out of your control, but it comes to you because you're the person that they entrusted with your job.
Right.
And it's how you respond to that. It's not whether you ever have that happen or not, because you will have that happen. It will happen.
It will happen, guaranteed.
It's how you respond to that.
It's like death and taxes.
It is. It is. You can guarantee that any you show me a business owner that has not had a challenging customer experience, and I'll show you a business owner that's been in business for less than 2 or 3 months. A day. Yeah, a day. In some cases, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So I wanted to circle back real quick. So around how long have you had the Window World, and kind of how's it set up? Is it Is it a franchise? Is it nationwide? Are you a franchisor, franchisee? Just talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So after the pizza place, I did decide reluctantly to finally join the family business. Now, with 26 years in hindsight, best decision I ever made in my life, and I wish I would have made it 5 or 6 years earlier. But I got into the business, that was in 1994. In 2002, my wife Debbie and I bought the company from my mom and dad, and Dad kind of took a part-time sales position within the company. We kind of reversed roles.
Yeah.
He got to spend more time at home. I took on the responsibilities and the stress of the business itself. Debbie and I from day one were partners. If you put it in restaurant terms, and you and I both like restaurants, and we both like going out and having a good meal.
Oh yeah.
You have front of house, you have back of house. Debbie's back of house, I'm front of house. She handles all the bookkeeping and all of the personnel inside the office, and I handle all of the sales and the marketing outside of the office. So we both we know what we excel in.
Yeah.
We know what our strengths are, and that's what we do. So 2002, we buy out South Texas Siding in Brickstone from my dad, who had his Brickstone business, and on the coastal area, my aunts and uncles had the Brickstone business here in San Antonio and Brickstone International. In 2003, we bought the Window World franchise, which at the time was just a license. It wasn't even a franchise. Window World started in 1995. We just celebrated 25 years as a company with Window World. And now Window World has grown into a franchise based out of North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, that encompasses 48 states and over 215 locations.
Wow.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah,
it's big.
It is big.
Debbie and I own San Antonio and Corpus Christi and New Braunfels. We owned Austin at one time, sold Austin, decided that I didn't like it was taking me away from what I knew I could be doing here. And truthfully, it's whenever we made the decision to let Austin go and sell Austin that we really started excelling here. It was the best decision we ever made.
So talk about that a little bit, because I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs have, they see all the shiny objects and they go chasing.
Right.
There's all kinds of stuff, especially in the trades or the service industry. I, in fact, suffered from it myself a little bit with a house cleaning venture for a few years. But there's all these what we would think of natural add-on services and things like that, or even just completely separate businesses. So how do you go about kind of avoiding hurting your core business, by chasing? How do you know when it's the right time to kind of diversify and maybe add in some other, businesses or some other complementary services without, taking your focus? Like you said, you kind of took your focus off what, making the San Antonio as great as it could be, and even saying that it was one of the best decisions you made to let go of something so you could focus, laser focus on San Antonio. So what would you say to someone who, wants to get into all these different
practice
ventures
restraint
and things like that?
Practice restraint. It's in your nature. If you're an entrepreneur, it's in your nature to want to constantly be starting something new, building something, growing something. It's natural, but you have to practice restraint. I could very easily add heating and air conditioning to my company. I've got people on staff that have a long background in that.
Yeah.
And it's even been talked about. Not going to happen, because it impacts the core of my business, and it takes away from the core of my business. As a company as Window World, when we started with Window World in 2003 and started rebranding as the Window World name, I no longer advertised Brickstone. I no longer advertised South Texas Siding, and for years I didn't do that, because I was building a brand and a name and a product. So when Windows became so dominant, and we were doing such business with Windows, that I felt like we could interject the other. Now, we never stopped doing siding.
Right.
We never stopped doing Brickstone. But for years, as South Texas Siding, people had no idea we did Windows. Well, guess what? When I branded as Window World for 10 years, people didn't know we did anything other than windows at that point. So I had to retrain people into knowing that no, we're not just a window company. We also do siding and doors and gutters and masonry. As a company as Window World, when we started with Window World in 2003 and started rebranding as the Window World name, I no longer advertised Brickstone. I no longer advertised South Texas Siding. And for years I didn't do that because I was building a brand and a name and a product. So when windows became so dominant and we were doing such business with windows that I felt like we could interject the other. Now, we never stopped doing siding.
Right.
We never stopped doing Brickstone. But for years, as South Texas Siding, people had no idea we did windows. Well, guess what? When I branded as Window World for 10 years, people didn't know we did anything other than windows at that point. So I had to retrain people into knowing that no, we're not just a window company. We also do siding and doors and gutters and masonry. But it took 10 years to get to the point that I felt like we could dilute our message enough because people trusted us and it wouldn't hurt us. And
was that kind of like a gut feeling you had?
Yeah.
Or did you have kind of certain benchmarks of like, okay, it's time and we're ready?
Yeah, there was no number. I mean, there was no, when we sell 500 windows a month every month for 6 months, then we're going to do this.
Then we're going to do that, yeah.
It wasn't that. It was, I felt that the time was right, and we started slowly adding to that mix. You'll still never see a Window World commercial where I'm not talking about windows, but you'll also hear me talk about all of our other products now, interspersed with that.
Yeah, I think we've all seen the pictures of you standing on the windows and things like that. I think that's a great tagline. We don't
exceptionally
identifiable.
We
stand on them.
That's right. And my wife won't let me do commercials without doing that. I did 2 commercials about 3-4 months ago, and she didn't know what the content was. I write all of my own scripts. I do all of my own content, and then I have great production people and a great marketing team that helps make it all happen. But I did a couple without me standing on the window. It was a little different messaging. And she said, why aren't you staying on the window? And I said, well, I was doing this. She goes, no, that is who you are, and that has to be in every commercial, Martin. And she was right.
Stay on message.
Stay on message.
Man,
stay on point.
Yep.
And for that reason, I can't go anywhere without somebody recognizing me. I was somewhere the other day, I believe it was at the Bergheim Meat Market or somewhere, and I had my mask on, walked in, and immediately the guy says, I know who you are.
That's awesome.
And
that's branding.
It is branding
yourself, and that's great.
And so, to that end, if you feel comfortable on camera and you're a businessman, be in your own commercials. It works. Now there's a downside to that. If you're not a good businessman and you do things you shouldn't be doing, you probably shouldn't be in your own commercials.
Tell me a little bit about, so kind of the size that you guys are today, like, kind of maybe whatever you want to talk about, number of employees, or,
Sure.
I know you guys are off of 410 and Evers, so you're kind of outgrowing those areas. So kind of, where's the company at these days?
Well, we're still in growth mode, believe it or not. 18 years into the Window World brand, and we're still growing. We had the best year we've ever had as a company last year.
That's amazing, especially during a pandemic. I mean,
it was incredible
to have your best year. Of course, a lot of people are home and doing projects and things, but that's awesome.
It is. We're exceptionally blessed, and I don't use that word flippantly. I know a lot of people throw around, I'm blessed, you're blessed. No, we really and truly are blessed. I believe that having faith and having a compass and having a moral guide contributes to the success of our business. And I have no doubt about that. I feel very strongly about that. Our team knows that we feel very strongly about that. Now, you don't come in and we hit you over the head with the Bible.
Sure.
But they know that we're a Christian company. They know that we practice Christian values, and they know that that is a primary focus for us in our success. I believe that there are things that contribute to your success that are completely outside of the realm of what you do as a business. how you give back to your community, how you mentor and help other people that are in the same situation that you're in, how you talk to people like you're doing today, and helping somebody out there who's watching this that says, I'd like to start my own business, but I just don't know if I can do that. I've had this setback, or I've had that setback, or I'm not smart enough to do that. I'm not good enough to do that. No, you can do this. And anybody who sets their mind to it and has the faith in themselves and the people around them to get the job done, and the work ethic to get the job done, can be a success at whatever you set your mind to doing. I believe that truly and firmly. I believe that there are a lot of people that don't have the drive to do that. They talk a good game, but they don't really know what it takes to do that.
Right, yeah.
It takes hours and hours and hours. There were times in the first 9 or 10 years of our business, Debbie was in a truck, I was in a truck, our vice president of operations, who happens to be Debbie's sister, who's been with us for on and off for 17 years now, we were in trucks physically unloading windows off of trucks for 8 to 10 years before anybody else was up there unloading trucks, and we were sitting down counting the windows and watching.
Yeah, man, and I feel like, you just, as an entrepreneur, you do what needs to be done. You know what I mean? I even 10 years in, and I'm, on a few Christmas lighting jobs last year, because we had a customer who was depending on us, and, we had to be there. So, as the owner, I had to be out there. So it's really just about, doing whatever it takes to succeed and having that mindset. Tell me if you could list like maybe two or three of what you would say would be your keys to success that really helped you get to where you are today. What would you say would be some of your keys?
One of the top keys for me is you have to have the support of your significant other, whomever that is. They have to be all in, 100%, believe in you, trust in you, and know that you're going to carry the day. They have to, if you don't have that support, if you have somebody who doesn't believe in you, doesn't talk you up, doesn't have your back, that's very difficult. That's if you have
that's
another.
a good one, because I remember even when we first started our first summer in business, things didn't necessarily take off like a rocket ship, like I was.
Oh, they didn't with us either.
Like I was, like I was imagining they would. I was thinking, you send out your first round of, direct mail postcards, and the phone's going to blow up, and we're going to have so many jobs, we're going to have to turn people away. It didn't exactly work out that way. But just, I remember that first summer and just being really slow and just figuring, how we're going to pay the bills and things like that. And I really slipped into kind of a depression. And it was my wife and her, her positivity and encouraging and believing in me that really, really carried me through that time. So I think that is absolutely, essential, important to have that support. Yeah, so that's a good one for sure.
Have faith in the process, especially if you're in a franchise system, or if you've taken over a business that's successful and you've had the good fortune to be able to buy an existing business that's already moving along, or if you're starting up a business, trust your mentors. Trust the people that have been there before you, that are giving you advice. Listen to that advice. Learn from those who have come before you and been successful at it. I joke with my team, I'm not above stealing from people who do it better than I do.
Oh yeah. Sometimes you don't got to reinvent the wheel.
You don't. You don't. And with us, it was really a fortunate thing that there were dozens of Window Worlds already in existence before we bought these franchises down here. So I could pick their brains and find out what they were doing that worked for them, and then implement it down here and see if it worked for me. The time from struggling to getting by to true success.
Yeah, those are so good. Talk to me a little bit about some of the risks that you've had to take, kind of to get, I think as companies, we kind of get to these ceilings, and then it's like we either kind of stay there, we break through that ceiling, get to the next ceiling. and there's usually some risks that kind of come along with that. And of course, we always want to take calculated risks, but can you think of a kind of a time in your business where you kind of maybe plateaued a little bit and you kind of had to take a little bit of a risk and a jump to kind of get to that next?
Oh, lots of them. Lots of them.
Give me a couple.
Well, first of all, you need to recognize that there's a difference between risk and reckless. I've taken risks dozens of times in my career. I've been reckless very seldom. Here's a good example. When we bought the business from my mother and father, Dad was word of mouth. The business was word of mouth from day one. He did a little bit of spotty advertising back in the 70s and 80s, but nothing to speak of, you know, a little bit of rural radio here and there. But in total, you know, I have no idea how much he spent, but here's my guess. My guess is that in the first year of owning Window World and following what they recommend as a percentage of your gross income to spend on advertising, we spent more in our first year than my parents had spent in the previous 30.
Wow.
And I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
In fact, to the point that I told my wife, you cannot tell my parents how much we're spending on advertising, and we won't speak about this because it would probably give my dad a heart attack.
Wow. Yeah.
He would not have understood. He would not have gotten it. He would have thought I was ruining the business. He just wouldn't have gotten it. And that's no dig on him. It's just how
exactly.
It was his knowledge of how he ran the business
Yeah.
and a different way of looking at things. So there's a risk. You take a leap of faith when you take any amount of money and you give it to somebody for an intangible product that you believe is going to net a phone call. That's a risk. You take a risk when you introduce a new product that you don't know if it's going to be a successful product or not, but you have faith that somebody's going to want that and it's going to be popular, and boom, there you go. You commit to it. You risk by buying a new building that's twice the size that you need because you know in your heart that you're going to grow into it. Now, I've outgrown every building that we've bought, and I thought they were too big when I bought them.
When you got them, yeah.
When I bought them. 12, 14 years ago, we bought the building that we're in now, and I said, man, if we ever do this much business, wow. Now I have that and another 8,500 or so square foot warehouse, and we're outgrowing that.
Wow.
So
we kind of had that a little bit.
If you build it,
here.
they will come, you know?
Yeah. We kind of had that a little bit here because we were across the parking lot, and this suite came available. It was a little over twice the size of the other one, and we're like, man, it's a little big for us, but you know, we got a good opportunity, and we're like, pulled the trigger. And we've almost filled up the whole space now.
It's funny how that happens.
Continue to grow into it, yeah. Like you said, kind of if you build it, they'll come. So you got to give yourself that margin.
You have to have room to breathe.
You have to have room to grow and expand and breathe.
Yeah.
So
that's a couple of the risks, you know, that we've taken throughout the years. Hiring more people than you need. We didn't start growing that's a tough one.
That's huge.
That's a tough one.
Pretty much every business owner, you know, that I talk to, that's the huge one, is the employees, you know, hiring the right people, you know, do I have enough work for them? So that's always a leap of faith as well, because you know, when I hire someone, I feel that responsibility for them to provide.
And we do too.
You know, I mean, ultimately it's God that provides, but I mean, you take that responsibility on personally, you know, as a business owner. Like, you're giving someone an opportunity, a job, like you want to make sure that they have steady work, they have income. So that's another leap of faith. That's another risk, is like, or even adding, you know, managers, or adding people who are not necessarily like income producing employees.
Right.
But you got to be able to
trust me, if they're doing it right, they're income producing employees, and you find that out really quickly when it comes to managers. Two things that without these two things we could have never grown to the level that we're at now. One is adding more staff than I needed before I needed it. And two was hiring people to do my job so I could do something else.
Okay.
Whenever I was selling, I had confidence in my selling ability. I knew I could go out and I could close. I knew that I could represent my company the way I wanted it to be represented because it was my company. I was not quite so sure that anybody else could do that. if I had held on to that belief and I had held on to that fear, we would probably be a moderately successful $1 million a year company, maybe a couple of $1 million a year company. But to build it to that point, you have to focus not on the things that you did day to day when you were starting, but you have to focus on continuing to grow and build the business. That becomes my job.
Yeah.
Not selling windows, not going out and giving presentations, not manning the showroom, marketing and growing the business and coming up with new ideas and new reasons for people to love us.
Yeah. How hard was that for you? Because, just in our talking, I can tell you're very polished. You seem like a natural salesperson.
I don't know if that's a compliment.
I think it is. I think people have kind of the stigma of sales as like this used car thing, but I think a true salesperson.
Sales is a noble profession.
Sales is a noble profession, and it's a service. Sales is service. I like to tell my technicians and my office people, like, sales is service. So we got to get around this mindset of we're pushing things on people that they don't need, because truth is they do need our services.
Right.
But going back to that, like, how hard was it to let go of that and to kind of, because we all have that, that mindset that, no one can ever quite do it quite like I can, being the owner,
right.
Things like that. So how hard was that to let go of? And also, what were some steps that you took that made you comfortable to release that to someone else?
Well, you have to have the right people. And sometimes you don't have the right people immediately, and you make mistakes in hiring. You have to develop a good radar for good people. And my wife is exceptional when it comes to that. We always have a two interview hiring process, because she can smell people that we don't need in our organization so much faster than I can. I'm the guy that I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I like everybody. You're going to be great.
I'm the same way.
And Debbie, bless her heart, the guy will step out of the office and she said, "We're not hiring him." I said, "Really? I kind of liked him." "No, not going to hire him. This is why." And she'll run down a list, and and then I play it back in my head. And I don't know. I used to question that. I don't question that anymore. I know if she says we're not hiring them, we're not hiring them. That's it. That's it. And that's served us pretty well. Our sales manager, for instance, in San Antonio, has been with us now for about 5.5, 6 years. We met through church years before, became friends. He was in the insurance business. And when I hired him, I had no doubt that he was the right guy for the job. And he has only grown and improved and built our sales staff every single year since he's been here. And I really and truly don't believe we'd have the success that we have right now if it wasn't for his contributions and what he does as a leader in that department of our business. Same with our general manager in Corpus Christi. Our Corpus general manager has been with us on and off for about 12 years now. Went back home to Cleveland for a while, and then came back and has just killed it every year since he's been here. I think the second year that he was here, he doubled business from the year before. So having those key people in place and trusting that they can do their job and not micromanaging. I can't stand an owner or even a manager who micromanages their team.
Yeah.
Train them properly, give them the support that they need on a daily basis, and let them do their job. If they're not doing that, you hired the wrong person, and whose fault is that? It's my fault.
Yeah, exactly.
It's my fault. I hired them.
Right.
Okay.
That's extreme ownership.
It is.
I don't know if you've seen that book by the Navy SEAL Jocko Willink, but he talks about taking ownership, extreme ownership, and so.
And that's hard to do.
Yeah.
That's not. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to admit that I'm the problem, that I created the problem. So you have to, when you make bad decisions, you got to own those too. When you make good decisions, you can do a little bit of that, but not too much. Trust the people that you hire. Hire good people and trust them to do what they do. I could not do what I'm doing right now, sitting down with you, if I had not done that years ago. I wouldn't have the time. I'd have to be in somebody's home right now, making a
sales presentation.
Exactly. And listen, I still love doing that. I still go out occasionally if it's a friend or a friend of a friend and they ask for me specifically. I'll still go out occasionally and do that. I'm not above that.
Sure.
But I have a different role in my company now.
Yeah.
And that's not my role. And
So what is your role? What is at this point, you guys have been Window World since I think you said 2002?
2003. 18 years.
18 years. So, what is your day-to-day, what is your role within the organization at this point?
My role is marketing and promotion. I do interviews. I do promotional appearances. I do all of our advertising as far as the recording of the spots. I do a radio show every week on KTSA.
Yep, I've been on there a few times.
You've been on, so. Yeah, so that is, I joke about KTSA. If I ever want to retire from KTSA, we're gonna take a hit because of that, and we will, because we do business off of that, and people trust us because of that. I've built that as part of our business. I also do charitable things and work with Debbie on developing different ways that we can contribute and give back to the community and to our other charitable organizations that we support, like St. Jude Children's Research Hospital and the Veterans Airlift Command and the Red, White, and Blue Foundation. And and locally, we're doing a thing right now called Window of Hope. Debbie and I are contributing $20,000, and we're going to pay people's utility bills to try to help with some relief on that.
That's fantastic.
Awesome. So that's that's my role as I see it in the business. Is I'm the face of the company. I'm the public image of the company, but I'm also behind the scenes doing things to support the people within our company.
Are there certain kind of resources or I guess as far as like either applications that you guys use, softwares, are certain resources that have really kind of been help spur the growth that you guys have seen? Because you guys are growing like crazy. So
37% last year.
Yeah, that's amazing. So different, like, are there certain software programs or just systems that you've relied on that have really helped to be a catalyst for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can
without giving away any trade secrets. Or
no. I'll even name names.
Yeah.
We have a proprietary CRM system now that we use called Window World 360. That's only for Window World, but there's several of them out there for the trades in particular that are fantastic. And the truth of the matter is, you get to a certain point on paper, and you can't really go much further without hiring dozens of people, and it just logistically it doesn't make sense.
Once you start growing to a certain level, I mean, it can get so overwhelming and so disorganized. Like, you really have to have a way to keep all of your customers and all of your contacts organized.
There's still nothing wrong with a handwritten thank you. Okay,
Oh,
I still believe in that wholeheartedly. But here's the thing: when you get to a certain level and you have so many customers, I mean, we have 13 salespeople in San Antonio alone going out and seeing an average of 3 people a day. What is that? My math's horrible. Is that 36 appointments a day? 39 appointments a day? Okay, 39 appointments a day. Imagine trying to keep up with that if you were running a day runner, which is how we started, right? We had a little day runner calendar. Everything was written down by hand. Yeah. You go back, you check on it. I had a spiral notebook that I would go back in on a weekly basis, and I go, okay, I need to follow up and call that guy. I need to follow up and call those customers. It would be impossible to do that now. With a good CRM system, and what we use prior to 360 is a system called Market Sharp. I absolutely love Market Sharp.
Yeah.
Love that. Salesforce has several great platforms, but Market Sharp in particular, I loved working with. It's super easy, very user friendly, and it's got so many great resources within it for automatic follow-up. Platform, and again, Market Sharp just happens to be my favorite.
I mean, really anybody who wants to grow to a big size company, I mean, you'd be able to utilize these technologies. Last, kind of wrapping up, I wanted to ask you a little bit about marketing. That seems to be kind of like your forte, or your the role that you fill still in the business. What have been some of the best mediums for growing your business as far as marketing? And then are there certain things that you have kind of marketing processes that are automated? And then, so what would you say would be some of the some of the bread and butter things that you guys have really used to kind of really fill your pipeline and get a lot of customers in the door?
Well, you know, in the early days, print was the thing. When we started advertising 20 years ago, 19 years ago, whenever Debbie and I took over the business, we did the Yellow Pages. I thought I had to have a full page ad in the Yellow Pages. We did local newspapers. We did the San Antonio Express News, routinely. Within 4 to 5 years, actually less than that, I guess within 3 years, we had cut out everything in the Yellow Pages except for a bold listing. And now I haven't talked to a Yellow Pages rep in 10 years at least. I don't even know if it's still there. At least. I only know it's there because somebody posted a novelty photo of the one that they received. And the book that used to be that thick now looks like a rural phone book about that thick. It's just crazy how it's changed. Everything is digital at your fingertips, right? You can get your information anywhere. You don't need the Yellow Pages anymore.
Yeah.
You don't even need the online Yellow Pages. You just need Google. That's it.
So with Google, like a lot of people, I guess most companies utilize like Google AdWords. Is that something?
Absolutely.
And then do you guys use other services such as like Home Advisor, Angie's List?
I'm going to say something that's probably not going to be real popular with some people. I am not a fan of either one of those. I don't like Home Advisor or Angie's List.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm with you on the Home Advisor for sure, and I know they took over Angie's List, so it's interesting to see how that's going.
Yeah.
I feel like it's going down the wrong road, but yeah, I'm actually a big detractor of Home Advisor.
I'm a huge detractor. Before Home Advisor was Home Advisor, they were called something else.
Service Magic.
Service Magic.
Yeah.
And Service Magic and I didn't get along from early on. Service Magic is in the business of selling any and every lead that they can sell you, regardless of the quality of the lead, and then it's up to you to fight.
And it's fight with 5 or 6 other people.
Right, 5 or 6 other people, which even that didn't bother me so much. It's the fact that the leads were terrible. They were people that were kind of browbeaten into accepting an appointment, many occasions. Angie's List, same thing.
Yeah, a lot of those Home Advisor, we would call them right away, and they would be
immediately. They'd already had 3 leads. Had 3.
They were like, "Oh, we're just messing around online,"
Yeah. I've actually, back when we were doing that, I had actually called a couple of times, and they said, "Oh yeah, we've already had 3 estimates," and I responded immediately.
Like 20 seconds.
Yeah. I'm thinking, okay, something bad's going on here. So we haven't done that in forever.
Yeah.
Don't need them. Haven't needed them, and I'm just fine without them. There is no substitution for referrals, but referrals come with time. So you have to build up to the referrals. So when you're building up to your referral base, right now, if you're a young company upstart, if you have the money to do television, TV is still our number one source of leads. Still our number one source of leads. A very close second that's been closing the gap every year for the last 6 or 7 years at least is digital marketing. Your website, your social marketing, Facebook ads, anything digital where you can reach directly to the consumer, and let's face it, the consumer's getting younger and younger. And the younger consumers consume their media digitally, not through television. They've
on the phone.
Cut the cords, it's on your phone, it's on your iPad, it's on your laptop.
Yep.
Anywhere that they can get it digitally, and right now is where you need to be. And it really doesn't matter what it used, in radio, if you were advertising nightclubs, for instance, you'd want to be on 99.5 KISS. You'd want to be on the rock station. If you were advertising home improvement, you'd want to be on the talk station or maybe a country station. There are stations that you had to be on. In the digital world, it doesn't matter what you're advertising, you need to be digital. Now, you can target almost to the finest pinpoint the audience you're going after when it comes to digital, regardless. So it doesn't matter if you're selling a widget or a chair or a table or a silver pineapple, you need digital advertising. And the faster anyone recognizes that, the faster they're going to speed up their growth process.
Yeah. Now earlier you had mentioned when you were starting to pour a lot of money into marketing, you had mentioned kind of a percentage of revenue. So kind of, I guess for the companies that are in that growth mode, Like, what is kind of a good target, like, percentage of
First,
that you
second,
would recommend?
first, second, third year, and the caveat is it depends on how much you want to grow.
Sure.
Right. I actually talked to somebody who's a pretty successful business here in San Antonio, and they were asking me my advice on advertising, and we were talking about it. And my first question was, well, are you happy with where you're at right now, or do you want to grow your business? And their answer to me was, you know, we really are comfortable with the amount of business we're doing right now. Well, then why are you talking to me? You know,
Yeah.
there's nothing I can help you with that.
Sure,
If you're
yeah.
keep doing what you're doing. Here's my genius advice. If you're happy with where you're at, keep doing with what you're doing. That's it.
Makes sense.
Makes sense, right? But if you want to grow your business, first, second, third year, I would devote at least 12 to 14% of my gross income projected to advertising. And then third, fourth year, back it off to 9-10%.
Is that kind of where you guys settle? Is
We're
that
at
kind of where you're at?
9-10%
Yeah.
every year.
Yeah,
Every year.
that's-
And we base that on projected next year income.
Yep.
Right? So if we're doing $3 million this year, we project $3.2 million next year. That's what our percentage is based on, not what we did last year.
Right. Now, and when you guys are looking at your marketing spend, what kind of return are you looking for? Like, what would you consider to be kind of your target? I've heard anywhere from like 5 to 1, 10 to 1, which is, I think that's really good.
It is.
But, like if hey, if I spend X dollars on marketing and I get X back, I'm happy.
Well, what it boils down to is lead cost, what your cost per lead is. And that's why referrals, there's a couple of reasons why referrals are the best lead source, because referrals cost you nothing, right?
Absolutely.
We pay a referral fee, so it costs us $150. So it costs us $150. We have Facebook ads that per call, now it's not per sale because we don't know if we sold them or not, but we know we set the leads, as little as $45 per lead. That's
Which,
ridiculous.
I mean, for you guys, your
Ridiculous.
average ticket's probably up in the, I wouldn't
$3,500
even-
to $5,000.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was kind of 5 to 10,000
Yeah.
is where I was going to guess, but $45 lead. I mean, that's going to
cheap.
be worth it all day.
That is a cheap lead.
So.
Our average lead cost in the industry is around $325.
Ooh.
So anything that I can get that nets me a lead cost of less than, say, $200, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. And and digital delivers more bang for the buck. TV nets me more leads technically,
More
but
volume.
more volume.
Yeah.
But I get a less expensive lead from digital advertising, by far.
And have you found, like, between like the traditional, like the TV and the digital, do they close kind of around the same rate, or there's
pretty
one more
comparable.
quality than the other?
Not comparable.
They're pretty
They're
comparable?
comparable, yeah. Comparable. The ones that are infinitely more sellable and you have a much better closing percentage chance are the ones that come into the showroom. I mean, you can add 50% to your probability
yeah.
of selling it right.
They took the time to drive in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've also seen our operation, and there's value in that you can't get by just going into the home. They see what our operation looks
Yeah,
like. They realize that we're
professionalism.
different than the other people out there. Most people in our industry are still working out of the back of their house or a small office space, and everything is in their truck and at the customer's house. We have a full comprehensive showroom. I think that says something to the consumer. It says we're not going anywhere. It says they know where to find us.
Yep.
You know?
It's the same in our industry. You got the guys who just work out of their trucks, and then
Right.
you have the companies that invest in the office space or the storefront. And to me, that kind of just says, yeah, we're going to be here for the long haul. We're not a fly-by-night company. So it's definitely important. Just wanted to circle back to that question about the obstacles.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear about some of the obstacles that you have overcome to get to where you're at today.
Sure. Early on, obstacles are going to be, they're the new guy. Competing with people that have been in the business for a little longer than you have. We never had that because we were already established, albeit in a much smaller level, but our company and our family reputation was good, and we had been doing this business for a long time before we bought Window World. So there was some benefit to that. But if you're ground up and you're starting brand new, you have to earn your reputation, and you have to earn senior status through hard work and years of being in that business, whatever that business is. That's one obstacle. For us, miscalculating advertising costs and business expenses at one point in our history cost us big time. It's something that most people wouldn't want to talk about, but I think it's important to talk about this if we're having an honest conversation about what you can overcome and where you can end up if you don't quit. If you don't give up, throw your hands up, walk away, and just say, that's it.
That's it, yeah.
It's so easy to do that when you're in a bad position. And there was a time in our history years ago that we had some unfortunate personal circumstances that had occurred. My wife's brother was battling terminal cancer. She was by his side throughout most of the last 4 to 6 months of his life, every single day. She had stepped away from the business and was completely occupied by that. And some things got out of control. Our advertising expenses skyrocketed. She and I had not paid enough attention to the bottom line. And before we knew it, I had gotten a call from one of our vendors stating that we were overdue with them by a lot, about $1 million. And in that instant, I was defeated. First of all, it blindsided me. I didn't know, and that's my fault. That's nobody's fault but mine. I wasn't paying close enough attention to that part of the business. But after I'd gotten over the shock of it and the anger that I'd let myself get to that position, I made the same commitment that I had made to my banker years and years ago, and that was, yeah, I know I owe you money. Oh, and by the way, I did pay that off completely.
Good to hear.
Within a year and a half to my banker, and he knew I was good for it, and I didn't let him down.
Fantastic.
And he worked with me, and I worked with him, and everything was good. But his advice stuck with me all those years later when we found ourselves in this position. You will get up, you will make it, you will be success if you don't give up and you do the right thing. Very important. If you do the right thing. Doing the right thing is not walking away from a debt that you incurred.
Absolutely. And it hurts sometimes. A lot of times.
Hurts.
I mean,
it hurts.
We've had customers where we've had to, take a loss just to do right by the customer, and doing the right thing, it always pays off in the end. But man, it hurts sometimes. And I think that there's, some short-sighted entrepreneurs are like, man, we're not doing that. We're not, and And sometimes you just got to swallow your pride, and you got to be able to, do the right thing in the end, and just trust that it's going to work out. So.
Yeah, and so for us, that wasn't an option. Bankruptcy was not an option. It's not in my DNA. Walking away from the debt, not in my DNA. We worked with our creditor, our vendor, and there was part of me that was, blamed them, and I was angry at them that they let it get to this point before they let me know this and before they called in the debt. But ultimately, it was my fault. It was our company's fault. We got on a payment program with them. We paid back every dime of the $1 million that we owed them. Fast forward 6 years. It took us about 2.5 years to pay them back. Fast forward 6 years, we are named the #1 window world in the entire nation. We have ultimate credit with anybody that we do business with, yet we pay cash every single month, because that will never happen again. Never.
That's so great, Martin, and thank you for just being vulnerable to share that, because man, I think people really do just look at sometimes the successful companies and just think that it's always been smooth sailing. It's just been steady.
I'd love to say that.
It's just been steady, growth or just steady, smooth sailing. But there are those defining moments where your values really kick in, and like you're saying, you're not gonna do bad on the debt. You're gonna take responsibility. You're not gonna point fingers and blame others. So man, just thank you for sharing that. And
Sure.
I just think that just wraps everything up on a great note. Thank you for your time and sharing your wisdom, and hopefully, I know I've learned a lot from this and just learned more about you and more about your business. And so I just hope that we will continue to just, as a business community in San Antonio, get to know each other, the local businesses, and just continue to grow and thrive together in this, in this environment that we're living in these days. So thank you so much for your time. And
thank you for having me, and thanks for doing this podcast. I think
Yeah.
it's going to do some great good in our business community, and I can't wait to see some of the other guests you have on.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.